This is the entrance to the largest military cemetery, or a cemetery in Poland. 104,105 people are buried here. This isn't the main entrance. The reason I'm coming down here to start off with is to show you these poles showing the names of people who were killed, largely murdered, during the Warsaw Uprising of August and September 1944. And I'm going to pick this post here at random just to give you an idea of the amount of names that are on it. Starting at the top there, Edward Mojżeszewski, who was born in 1914. We have his address there, Marimonska 61A, flat number 29. Coming right the way down here to the bottom, and we have Władysław Nowak, born in 1874, and he was living at ulica Solec 36, Świętowiec Święta Franciszka Salezego. And the name above him, born 19, Władysław Nowak, lived in Krokmalna 45, bring that, and that's the street I used to live in, not at that time of course. You can see how many names are on that, and on that, and on here as well. And that's just one post. And now, as I turn around, you can see how many posts there are. This is a project by the City Hall of Warsaw to give people their names back. So the people who were killed, these tens of thousands who died during the Warsaw Uprising, largely murdered, have been given a place where they can be now remembered. Now, a project like this must have taken a great deal of time, and largely the results were destroyed. In fact, people who were born, for example, in the 1930s in Warsaw, they were still alive today. They don't know how old they were, how old they are, because their documents were destroyed, and often it's the case that there was no one around to actually tell them. So that's quite frequently they may have a date of birth which somebody just gave them by picking a date out of thin air based on how they looked. So you can see here, really pretty horrific the circumstances, and it's quite important, I think, that this park here is in this district of Wola in the west of Warsaw, because it was here that where the most of the victims were killed. It was not so far from here, the other side of the park over there, very first victims of the uprising. 8 passers-by were just shot at random, and this was in revenge for a shooting which had happened. I presume that there were Home Army members who were going to their muster points. For some reason, a shooting had started with a German unit, a police unit, and later, as a result of this, 8 people were just chosen at random, shot in the street. That was the very first killing, on the 1st of August, but it is in this district in the west, because units which were gathered together from the initially in Poznan, and then sent to recapture Warsaw, coming from the west, and the criminality, the shooting everybody. Hitler himself had given an order that just to kill everyone, no prisoners to be taken, all civilians to be killed. Himmler apparently said words to the effect of, "Oh, this is a great opportunity to destroy the Poles and to destroy Warsaw." Of Of course, such killings of this nature is counterproductive, and it just leads to a hardening of resistance, and it is those who were doing it were brought in from outside. I think that those even SS unit and police units which were in Warsaw did try to persuade the likes of Reinhardt, one of the criminals who came in here and just killing everybody, and Deelavanger and others, that they tried to persuade them not to kill so many people. But looking at this, yeah, the horror of it, this total destruction of absolutely everything. Now, the Home Army, which had broken out in revolt and tried to liberate Warsaw, did so because the Soviets were relatively close. They wanted to liberate Warsaw before the Soviets had got here. Let's not forget that the Soviet Union invaded Poland on the 17th of September in 1939. Only 3 weeks earlier, or just a little bit over, it had signed an alliance with Nazi Germany with a secret protocol which gave it the eastern part of Poland together with the Baltic states. So the objective was to free Warsaw before the Soviets got here. This, of course, would have been just a political gesture, because it's hard to see how the Home Army would have also have held it off against the Soviets, but that's something for a different video. Now this project is comparatively recent, but as we come down into the older part of the cemetery, which is down here, this started to be laid out as early as November 1945, when the remains of people killed during the Nazi occupation were actually laid to rest here. Now, on the right hand side down there we have the cemetery, so it's a cemetery which has been here for many years. And let's come down here. So it says there, Cmentarz, Cemetery Powstańców, the uprisers, the rebels, Warsaw Resistance, so 1944, the Home Army Cemetery from 1944. In fact, we'll walk down here and show some of the graves which are here as well. Now, in theory, you're not supposed to play ball games here. You're not supposed to cycle around on your bicycle. My bicycle, as you may have noticed, is tied to a lamppost, and so here we have names of people. But this is really absolutely enormous. This anchor symbol is a symbol of the resistance, and this is something which I've thought a great deal of recently, how this symbol has in recent years, possibly even earlier, has been abused by the extreme right, and I believe it should have some kind of protection to stop this type of thing happening. And here we have, okay, I'll use this as an example. On the 5th of August 1944 was probably the day when most people were actually murdered and in the Wola district. And most of the graves you see, as you walk around, you see the dates 4th and 5th and 6th of August above all. And these people are civilians. Okay, here we have people who were from the Home Army. Here we have a matseva, for the Jews who were murdered in the Skry stadium, which is in ulica Okopowa. So 6,588 people who were murdered and exhumed from mass graves in the Skry Sports Club. 6,588 people. The amount of people who were initially buried here was when they had the remains, and let's face it, it wasn't, a lot of people had been burned, but when they were burned, and the ashes are mixed up with all sorts of other ashes as well. So here, here lie the remains of the victims of terror, exhumed from the citadel. So there was a number of Tsarist fortifications in this area, as well as 240 unknown. Nieznanych, 70 people unknown. One thing I must say is, though, the cemetery which is to the right, there were lots of people in, but here there are very few visitors, which I think for me is quite it's quite sad. Now, at one point, there was Reinhardt, who was chosen to put down the uprising. He sent a message saying that there were more people to shoot than they had rounds of ammunition. I've prepared a much longer video on Reinhardt and Delewanger. Separate videos. In the case of Reinhardt, Delewanger was killed during or just after the Second World War, but Reinhardt, this mass criminal responsible for tens of thousands of deaths, he went on to be the mayor in Sylt in West Germany. He was also in the local parliament, as well as having a legal career after totally unpunished, which is really pretty horrendous in the circumstances. Now, on this channel, I frequently talk about those Nazi criminals who got away with it. Many of them, though, they got away with it by keeping their heads down. Reinhardt didn't keep his head down. He was very well known. He was, though, tracked down. Mass grave in which are placed the remains of over 50,000 inhabitants of the capital and Home Army resistance died and murdered during the Warsaw Uprising in 1944. And yet another section over here as well. This year marks the 80th anniversary, so it's 2024 here, and I think I was here in 30 years ago as well for the 50th anniversary. Now, Wola as a district in the west, this was an industrial area, so largely the people who inhabited here were largely working class people, worked largely in industries, and the area itself, which had grown thanks to the railway communications from the 19th century onwards. Also, this was one of the first areas actually to be where the Germans actually reached in September 1939. One of the first. And so we have the dates of deaths. So 20th of September 1944. Also see how old they were. Notice always this word Nieznanik, unknown, always there. 53, unknown. 80 here, unknown. The population of Warsaw was, well, the word isn't even decimated. The huge amount of people who were murdered during this period is utterly horrendous. Warsaw had the second largest Jewish population in the world on the 1st of September 1939. Yet by the time the Nazis were pushed out in January 45, there was hardly anybody left who was Jewish. As a result of the uprising, the inhabitants who survived were largely had to leave. So by January 45, there was next to nobody still here. There's a scene in the film The Pianist, which, according to the recollections of Warsaw Uprising, were actually what happened. And there was a German officer who was helping him, and he said, "Well, why don't you leave?" And he said, "I'm Jewish." He said, "Oh, in that case you can't leave, can you?" And Warsaw Uprising himself, who was given a coat by the German and almost ended up getting shot because of it, because he was thought to be a German when he went to greet the Soviets when they got here. So I hope you found that of interest. It's a quick walk around this cemetery, and if you did, then there's other videos related to the Warsaw Uprising, and you might want to actually see those as well. For the moment, thanks very much for watching, and bye for now.